everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do a DIY Dollar Tree spring un-wreath. That's what I'm going to call it. I coined that phrase. So we're going to start with a chipboard sign. I wanted square, but you could pick whatever one you have. And then a variety of spring flowers of your choice. Some from Dollar Tree, some are from Walmart, and I'll tell you what we're going to end up using. And then this pack of spring welcome bunny signs from the Dollar Tree. We're going to use welcome spring. And then of course paint and hot glue, and then a tiny bit of scrap of foam board. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull off this like medallion sun and save it for another project for another day. Summer's coming, so I'm sure we could stick it on something eventually. Now you could go ahead and peel off this paper. This is an older sign, so you could peel off the paper off an older sign if you can get the paper off, or you just flip it over. And the only time I ever worry about just flipping it over is if you're going to put this on a glass door and you have a pretty back. You know, you want to make sure you do something to that. Now we're just going to peel this sticker because of course it's in the middle of everything that we want to do. It always is. And then we're just going to give this a coat of paint, white chalk paint. I'm using Waverly's white chalk paint I'm using Waverly chalk paint in white and ink, and that's it for this whole project as far as paint is concerned. I like a foam brush, but I've done, all different brushes before. It depends on what the look you're going after. Since this is going to resemble shiplap or barn board, I don't really want excellent coverage. I just want fair, decent coverage. So I'm going to put two really super light coats right on top of each other. So like by the time you get done painting the bottom with a really light coat, the top is dry. Actually, the top is dry before you actually get it blended out, as you can see there. So I'm making sure I go around the edges because this board is going to be seen from the sides as well, and we're not totally covering it with anything. And in hindsight, now that I'm doing this, I should have actually continued those paint lines around the edges. That would have been really cool. That would have been a touch. I'm going to do that, but you won't see it. Maybe follow me on Instagram and I'll share it there. I'm crazy. So we're going to do one coat, then a second quick coat, and then we're going to set it off just to dry a little bit. Normally when I weather something, I like to do it while it's wet. But this particular thing, I really wanted to get underneath the paint with sandpaper to create like wood looking color. So I'm just going to wait till it's almost dry. I'm just going to set it off to the side, and then we're going to paint our spring and welcome signs. We're going to keep Bunny for another project for Easter, which is coming very shortly. And I could have just left these. This would make this project even easier if you just left these. But my whole feel for this project was that I wanted to put bright, fresh spring flowers on an old, rugged board with like a rusty metal discolored word. So almost like the words and the board represent winter and the flowers represent spring, if that makes any sense to you. I don't know, there's usually not so much philosophy behind my DIYs, but this one definitely has it. So I've decided to do is just use a stipple technique. I'm just dipping it in the cap so it's got very little paint on it, and I'm stippling it, leaving some silver or some of the galvanized coming through still. This way, to me, it made it feel a little bit more like aged metal instead of just like it could have been cut out of chipboard or something. You can see it later, I think, with the camera picks up the light, but right now it's just it's a little bit too shadowy for you to see the highlights. And now, while that black paintbrush is still wet, very, very slightly, I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm just going to create shadow lines, or dirt lines actually. It's probably more like to represent mold. No, I'm kidding. The spaces between the boards. And I'm trying to make them uneven. They're just coming out even, which is really bizarre. So I definitely made this last one way bigger. But I really wanted that uneven panel sort of situation. Now I'm taking this side of the brush, which has very little paint on it, and I'm just going across as well. When you pick up the ruler, it took off some of the paint. I don't know if you saw that real quick, but I just like that look, and that's the look we were going after. That's why we waited for it to be almost dry. And then you want to just go back over whatever you feel like is too dark, because then again, you want to make this look like it's been layers of paint over years. So it's okay to paint layers of paint, if you know what I'm saying. So now I'm just going to take a piece of sandpaper. This is just a small square I cut out of a big sheet that I got at the Dollar Tree, I don't know, 20 years ago or something. Man, I hold on to a lot of things. And I just folded it in half around my finger, and just to create these really rough lines, just creating some contrast, bringing out some of that chipboard color, that wood color, just to make so everybody knows it's actually wood down there. And that's it for the distressing. I mean, obviously you can go as heavy or as light as you want to. Like I said, in hindsight, I would have wrapped those lines around the side to make it look like it's actually separate boards all the way around. And then, of course, you could distress the edge or whatever. There's lots of different techniques, methods. One of my new creators that I found says, I do it till my eyes are happy, which I think is a really cute way of saying until you like it. And like I always say, that's what I'm saying, until it looks good to you. Now it's time to break out the spring flowers. I have a huge variety to choose from. You probably do too. I'll tell you what we are going to end up using. We're going to end up using the ranunculus that we got from Walmart. The ranunculus was $3 for a huge bunch. We're going to end up using some of the white/green sort of crocus, and then we're going to end up using this $2 eucalyptus from the Dollar Tree. It's plastic. So I know that they do have eucalyptus, plastic eucalyptus at the Dollar Tree now, but not in my stores. I haven't found it. So I'm just going to use this from Walmart. And I'm just going to cut off 3 or 4 sprigs. That's it. I'm going to put two, I'm going to try to wrap this around the left side. I'm sure you saw the thumbnail, so you know what I'm talking about. But now I'm realizing that I probably need to put the hanger on first, because if I go and accidentally, or I'm going to put my floral arrangement over that hole and not glue it over the hole, but the flowers will be over the hole, I might end up disturbing it when I'm done. So I'm going to go ahead and put my hanger on. For my hanger, I'm going to use this Walmart black and white flannel, believe it or not, checked ribbon. Again, this is, to me, makes it feel a little bit more like the winter going on and the spring coming in. And I've just tied a really tight bow and made 2 equal length tails, and then feeding them from the back to the front. Adjust your ribbon so that your right side's out. This has one side that's flannel and one side that's not, but because it's wire edged ribbon, it's very easily moved and manipulated and easily forgiven. So I went ahead and I pulled it through evenly and then tied a knot and made sure it was completely straight. It got really twisted on that side. And then I just tied a knot the same spot. And to tie a knot really close to the board, all you have to do is push. See what I'm doing? Pushing down the knot with my right hand while I pull the ribbon up with my left. And this way it gets really close to the board. And now we're just going to glue these down. So now, here I am thinking, yeah, no problem. Just put a big puddle of glue. That'll hold. That never works. What are we talking about? No, it did for some of them, but one of them falls out later. You'll see it's kind of funny. But for the greenery, I have mentioned many times in my channel, I took a floral arranging class at 1-800-Flowers. Not a course, just a couple of classes. And they always tell you to start with your greens and then add your main flowers, your accent flowers at the end, but your main flowers next. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the eucalyptus. And I'm just shooting it out both sides. There's no reason to go all the way around with eucalyptus, since I'm going to cover that all with flowers. Just be cheap like me and save yourself the headache of putting it down and then waiting for it to dry and then having to cover it anyway. So I love this ranunculus. I got 2 bunches when I saw it. I think they are the most beautiful, inexpensive artificial flowers that I've ever seen in my whole life. And I mean, and that's saying a lot. My wedding bouquet was artificial flowers, but they are just made so beautifully. Whether or not you like the ranunculus type of flower, just these are just perfect. And they just remind me of watercolor flowers for spring. And that's why I really wanted to use them in this. So some I left with the stems on and some I took the stems off. These from the Walmart hold on a lot better than the ones from the Dollar Tree. So I didn't feel it necessary to glue the stems in. Some of them were difficult to get the blossoms off. So, what I just did was I basically glued an arrangement that looked really pleasing to me. I did originally intend for this to go more across the top, and then just down the side, but I ended up making it more even, more like a C shape. And then I just laid most of the ranunculus down and like and arranged them till my eyes were happy. So for the ones that I had cut the stem off completely, what I did was, I didn't at first, but I originally I cut the stem down, the little plastic thing that holds the flower together. But you want to make sure you put tons of glue there, because you don't want your flower to come apart. If that little green thing comes out of the middle of your silk flower, then your flower will fall apart. So you want to make sure you glue it heavy duty down there. And then what I ended up doing was gluing the leaves down underneath it, so it looked more of like a part of the arrangement. And I was in love with this little bud on this ranunculus. They give you like one little tiny bud. It was so pretty and precious. So I put that down in the middle. Now I'm taking the crocus, the white and green sort of shade crocus, and I'm just cut about 6 of them off, and I'm just sticking them here and there and everywhere. And then I was originally thinking about the lilacs, but I don't know. I just feel like they take away from the ranunculus. So the last thing I'm going to do is I have some of this German status, I think is what it's called, how you say it. But I just took like 2 pieces and stuck them here and there and everywhere. And the next, we're just going to move on to the sign. We're going to put the sign on. Now, the welcome sign is kind of tucked under the flowers, which I really loved as well, because that to me made it feel even more like the springtime was overtaking the wintertime. But of course, if you've been here and you've seen any DIYs with any of these galvanized letters, I like layers. I take a small piece of foam board as wide, or a little narrower than the thickest part of a letter, and I just glue it down to it. And then I usually take a Sharpie, depending on where I'm putting it. Like this one is a piece of black foam board, and I just colored in the white foam because these letters were black. I thought that would be better. And then I glue it to the underside of the letters, and then I glue it to the board. And I repeat that for both words. Sorry, that was kind of off camera. But then I just place it. I just pick up the flowers and I tuck it. I kind of went even. Like originally if you saw for a second, I was like, do I want it on an angle, or do I just want it straight across? And I just went with straight across. It makes me happy for things to be at a square angle, at a right angle. Yeah, like Monica says, if it's not a right angle, it's a wrong angle. No, I'm kidding. But we're going to repeat the same thing for the word spring. I almost wish that these were 2 different fonts, because that would have been really pretty if I'd done, if welcome would have been in a different type of script, or even in print, or spring for that matter. But they're pretty just the way they are. Now for the last thing, because it's going to go super fast, is I'm going to dovetail the ribbons by folding them in half and cutting from the fold, up the fold down to the wire on both sides. And then for the one side that you can see, I finger waved it so it looks like it's flapping in the wind. And that's it. It's so pretty. I love it. Happy spring, everybody. I hope you guys really enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions at all, go ahead and leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to share with friends and family, anybody who might be interested in making one of these, or the techniques, or any of that stuff. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe, and when you do, a little bell will pop up. When you ring that bell, YouTube will let you know whenever I upload a new video. And as always, you guys take care, God bless, and we'll see you next time. Bye!